friends, welcome to our second day of Letter With Me videos. We yesterday started this practice page of this printable worksheet that you should have received in your email. I do want to talk to you about something that came up the other day, or recently. I think it might have been yesterday. Yesterday for me, not when this is coming out. But somebody had said to me that they were excited about watching these videos, but that they needed to get my course and go through it before they could start. And I was like, no, this is the whole point. You don't have to do any of that before you start. And so I just wanted to talk about that with you in case that's been something hold on, I can't talk and finish that at the same time. In case that's something that you have thought as well, because I understand wanting to learn something or get better at something before you officially start. I understand putting things off because you don't think you're ready. And I totally get that. That's fine if you feel that way. But I do want to just acknowledge that this is a space where you can just start. You do not have to have previous knowledge. You don't have to use a brush pen. You could just use a regular marker. You can use whatever you have on hand. But the point here is to just start. So as we go through, of course, I will give some tips and tricks here along the way. Like, for example, when we do this last one here, I'm going to lighten up on my strokes when I'm going up, and then I'm going to push harder when I'm going down, and just try to follow that through slowly. Even though this one's pretty long, if you cannot do it all the way, pause when you get to the top and then come back down. If you need to do that, you can totally do that. The goal here is to be able to continuously follow this line though, while going thicker on your downstrokes and thinner on your upstrokes. So of course I will give you tips and tricks as we do this, but you do not have to have baseline knowledge to sit here and practice with me. I said this in my last video, but you don't even have to do hand lettering if you don't want. If you want to sit down with your journal and write, or if you want to take a bunch of markers and just color lines all over the page, that is fine. Whatever you want to do with your hand lettering or with your art, to just take some intentional time to sit down and relax and create something with your hands that helps you just take a little time out to have that calm, relaxing time in your day. I'm going to switch to a different marker here just because I'm on the second page. This one I think is like a reddish, but I think if I remember right, it almost comes out kind of coral. And so I just wanted to say that in case you have felt like you need to do something before you can start, I would just encourage you to just jump in and don't feel like you have to go back to day one and catch up on all the videos, which, I mean, it's only day 2, so you're totally welcome to do that. But even in the future, if you miss a week of videos, don't feel like you have to go back and catch up before you can jump in. Just jump in wherever we are, and then you can just join us without any pressure. I did mention yesterday that I'm going to try to maybe not focus on one thing each week, but just kind of, we're not going to be learning something new every single day. This is about repetition and practice, and really doing it for other reasons than to just accomplish something and have a finished product at the end. So sometimes we might do that, but it's not going to be something where every single day there's this huge ask of you. It's really just about showing up, however imperfectly that may be. So with this one, we are just, this worksheet, I should say, we are just practicing these repetitive thick and thin strokes. And like I said, it's not about accomplishing something, but as you practice, of course, this should get a little bit easier for you. I'm even going, I think, a little bit faster than I went in my last video, just because this is, as you go through this same worksheet a few times, hopefully these strokes will feel a little bit more familiar to you, and you'll just start to get a little bit more comfortable with what you're doing, and with the motions and with your brush pen if you continue to use the same brush pen. So that could even be another way that you could practice the same thing each week. You could practice like with the same brush pen, and once you get the hang of that one, then the next week maybe you switch to a smaller size brush pen. And then after that, you might switch to a watercolor brush or something like that. Whatever you're wanting to practice, just maybe try to stick with one thing that week so that you can try to get that consistency in. And this is another one where if you feel like it's too hard to go back and forth without lifting your pen, you can lift your pen at the points of each of these strokes. This one's actually a bit easier to do that than the one that I showed you earlier at the bottom, because this one, there's just a really good stopping point at each of these. However, the goal is that we can kind of do it in one motion. I do feel like this brush pen is maybe a little bit more worn than the other ones because I'm getting quite a bit thicker of a stroke, it feels like. It maybe is just a little bit softer. And that's okay. You do not have to have the perfect size brush pen to use these worksheets. And honestly, you could use a Crayola marker with this set. This is a good size for a Crayola marker. And speaking of that, if you have a preference on what size worksheets you like, if you prefer these bigger ones, or if you prefer smaller ones, if you prefer worksheets that you can use with a dip pen or worksheets that you can use with watercolors, please let me know in the comments below. That would be really helpful for me to hear because I don't plan on making worksheets like every single day, but as we practice, I'm sure we will get a big variety, and it would be helpful to know what kind of worksheets you are looking for and which kind would help you practice the best. So please let me know if you just tell me what type of like pen you like to use. That actually helps me to be able to size it to that. So you don't have to worry about like telling me what size of a worksheet you want. If you just say like, I want to use this type of a pen, or I want to use a dip pen, that is super helpful because then I can kind of look at that pen and test it out and size it to that one or something similar. I have been making worksheets for many years, and so I have a lot of different sizes, but I find that most people have some kind of marker that works with a large size worksheet like this, like a large size brush pen, even if it's just a Crayola marker. So with this one, we are going back and forth with thick downstrokes and thin upstrokes. That being said, you could do this however you like. You can change it up if you don't want to do it that way. You could do where you're going down for all of them and you're just practicing different amounts of pressure. This can just help you with that brush pen control. So you're practicing pushing a lighter stroke, pushing a thicker stroke. So you don't have to follow the direction that I'm going, but that's just a suggestion. So typically when we do brush lettering, we're getting a thicker stroke when we go down and a thinner stroke when we go up. And that is kind of a hallmark of brush lettering. So that is a good thing to practice, and you really can't practice that enough, honestly. So I'm going to go ahead and I will attempt to do these in one stroke, and I can kind of show you what I mean by that. Or I should say maybe not one stroke, but without lifting up my brush pen. All right. So it is doable, even if it feels tricky right now. I will say that I am using a pretty smooth paper. I personally like HP Premium 32 paper. That's a great one to grab. But another thing you could do if you want to be printing out these worksheets to continue to use is you could just print them out on whatever paper you have, and then you could put them in like a 3-ring binder or a folder, and then you could just get tracing paper. That way each day when you're practicing with them, you're just adding some tracing paper over the top, and you're not having to print things out frequently. So that's another option, and honestly, I may do that myself, just so I can keep these organized so that I know what I have already made for you guys. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's practice session. I will show you between the 2 pages what I have finished here. And I would love to hear how your practice is going. Feel free to leave it in the comments below. And I will see you tomorrow for another video.